Good morning. Welcome to Inside the Huddle.
Good morning.
We have the founder, creator, and host, Steve Salinas here.
That's right.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Sean.
You're wearing all the attire for your team. Nice.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming. As a Michigan Wolverine, it felt good to watch Michigan dominate Ohio State for the first time in many a year. So
I'll bet it was pretty happy in your household.
It was, it was a lot of anxiety on Friday and then Saturday morning, and we came out, we played well, and it's exciting. So, as you could tell,
fantastic. Well, I want to welcome everyone, and I asked Steve permission to kind of front this, the theme of today, because I think it's really, really important. So I wanted to kind of give it an organized thought to you guys. Actually, what I want to do is ask you a question. Have you decided whether or not 2022 is going to be even greater than 2021? And I mean that as a serious question. There's a lot of agents out there right now that if I asked them that question, they would start talking about, supply and demand or interest rates or, shadow inventory. So take a drink of water. Let me ask it again. I'm going to emphasize the key word. Have you decided whether or not 2022 will be your best year ever? Your outcome next year has nothing to do with market forces or Federal Reserve machinations or any of that. It's absolutely dependent on the decision you make, right? Not a hope, not a wish, not a I think, but an absolutely concrete, you can take it to the bank decision. Now, what does that kind of decision look like? I'm here to suggest to you guys that, well, first of all, you're here at 7 a.m. So this is probably something you want to hear and you embrace. So thank you guys for being here once again. I think a decision like that, it looks like two things. It looks like, and I want you to write this down. It's 3 actions that you've taken, and it's 2 ideas that you've accepted. 3 actions you're taking right now and 2 ideas that you're accepting. That's the difference. What are the 3 actions? And we've been talking about this, so this will not come as news to you guys. You've reverse engineered your numbers into a business plan of action. That's number 1. Number 2, you've put those actions into a calendar, right? And number 3, you've committed yourself to waking up every single morning, looking at that calendar and executing it. Not except for, or unless it's inconvenient, or every single morning, no matter what, I'm not going off my calendar because my calendar gets me to the goals that take care of my family. Okay, so those are the 3 actions we've taken. What are the 2 ideas that you're going to accept right now is cold, hard fact, okay? This is you can take it to the bank. The first one is this. The key to a successful 2022 is found in the first quarter. That's the key to every single year. Your first quarter sets you up and makes the year work. I have mad respect for people who can come from behind, right? We've got great quarterbacks who do that last minute drive. But here's the truth. Champions play from the lead. They don't come out of the first quarter behind and then try to play catch up. Champions play from the lead. So the first idea that you have to accept is the first quarter is going to set your entire 2022. Now, here's the second idea I want you to accept. And this is what's leading Steve and I into this topic today. That's why you can see why it's so important. The key to having a really good first quarter is completely dependent on what you do for the next 4 weeks. The momentum you create. Thanksgiving just ended. It's 4 weeks till the Christmas holiday. What are you going to focus on, lean into, put your energy into to create momentum? Those 4 weeks create a first quarter. That first quarter creates the year. That's the decision we have to make. And Steve, I think that's what we wanted to talk about today. What can we do over the next 4 quarters?
Right. Yeah. And just pick a couple of things that you'll commit to. Come hell or high water, you're going to stay the course on making a commitment to 1 or 2 things that you're going to do differently this year that will challenge you, that will force you out of a routine of last year. I mean, we just got done watching football all weekend, and I know there's not a lot of I think sports gives us life's lessons, and I've certainly learned a lot in my days playing football. But no two teams are ever the same. So this team that showed up Saturday in the Ann Arbor was a very different team than the previous 8. They had determination. They had a different routine. And so if you just kind of rest on, what made you successful in 2021, thinking that nothing will come from the outside to disrupt that you've got your groove, then, you're going to be blindsided by something. And whether it's a market shift, a pricing correction, further reduction in inventory, a surge in inventory, something is going to be different in 2022 that's going to force you to look at your business differently. And, when I heard you talking just now, which was a great opening salvo, Sean, so thank you for that. It got me to thinking about just how important it is to have a routine, to have a system that you're willing to adopt early on right now to follow through into next year, as opposed to just reacting to things, which is what a lot of agents do. Not our agents per se, but a lot of agents are just very reactionary and they get caught flat-footed. How do I know this? Because we deal with those questions every day. Every day we're dealing with either the customer, the external customer, our internal customer trying to react to something in the market. We do it. We have to do it as managers, and we have to be on the lookout for these things. So it's really important. And I think, Sean, to your point, or where I think you're going, or where we want to go to today, is what are the 1 or 2 things that you can commit to that will be different? And I'll just say this. I think you have to get in a world of technology where things can be very easy for us to kind of hide behind a keyboard and stare at a computer, whether we're working on Marketing Center, we're working on that flyer program we're going to send out, or that farming campaign, or working through our database. It could be, I like to bring a little bit of old school back to it, Sean. I think you got to find ways to be more mechanical. How can I get back into a blocking and tackling exercise that anyone that's trying to help me can see me trying to attempt something? So like my first challenge, and by the way, should I go on, or I thought you were going to say something.
No, I have some questions to ask, so go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So like something I learned 25 years ago that I think would be apropos today, and absolutely something you could do differently is, in terms of your lead generation. How can a coach, or how can a mentor, or how can somebody who's trying to help you take a deep dive into what you're doing mechanically to generate more business for yourself? So I learned from one of the very best agents I've ever known in my life to go out and buy a 3-ring binder, go out to Staples and get a 1 through 31 tab, those little insert sheets that you see that represent each day in the month. And when you open his book back in the day, 25 years ago, if today was, what's today, the 20, whatever day, 28th, 29th, his manager or his coach could go in and take a look at what he had planned mechanically as it related to his lead generation activities. And it wasn't hidden behind a computer. It wasn't hidden in Top Producer. It wasn't hidden in our Compass CRM. It was right there for anyone to see that could walk in and say, you're having a tough time. Let me see that book. Because that would show intentionality. That would show a more mechanical approach to the business than trying to find the path of least resistance. So it's just a little thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's when you look at a book, when you look at someone's calendar, I can tell you pretty closely what they're going to make this year because it's planned out. And so I wanted to you hit a couple of really good topics that I wanted to dive into. Okay. And I would love for you guys, if you want to write into the comments, because these are things for you and for you to share with each other right now. Because you're talking what Steve just said. I would say what's one thing? Maybe you're, really on top of it and you can do 2, but we got 4 weeks to focus. The key to solving a problem always is asking the right question. So here's the question I would ask you. Where is your comfort zone? What are you comfortable doing? What are you uncomfortable doing? And this is all predicated on an idea that we've said before. Diamonds hide in the caves you won't go into. We all have our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So it's not here, do this. Here, let me give you 3 things to go do. It's what are you not doing right now that you should be doing?
Right.
Who are you not calling And I have hundreds and hundreds of agents I've coached. It's almost exactly 50-50, Steve. Half of them say, oh, I'll call my friends, but I hate calling strangers. And the other half say, I'll call strangers, but I won't call my friends, which tells us it has nothing to do with who you're calling and everything to do with you, right? It's a half and half. Right. So who are you not calling that you should be calling? What cave are you not willing to go into because it's uncomfortable? That's how you answer the question, what do I do for the next 4 weeks?
Love it. I have nothing to add to that. I mean, that's spot on. So
another one that you mentioned and that I will bring up is a routine. It doesn't have to be a lead source, although that's generally what I'm thinking when I think the next 4 weeks.
Right.
What routine have I not adopted? The one thing we don't want to be, so we said today's on Wednesday, December 1st, I start my new routine because we always have a new routine. We always have new things we're going to do. You know, there's people out there right now saying, well, I can't wait for January 1st, the new year. Then I'll start my new thing.
Right.
And I always kind of laugh inside and go, ha, I'm a month ahead of you already. Why would we wait? What new routine can you adopt right now over the next 4 weeks that's going to fundamentally change who you are over the next 13 weeks, over the first quarter?
Yeah.
Adopt it now.
Yeah. Yeah, that would work if the world stopped for the next 30 days, right? And the young lions and young lionesses weren't out there sharpening their claws, trying to figure out how they get to the next level. There's always someone coming for you. And when they're coming for you, there's no days off. When that company, that competitor, when they made the decision, they're going to compete in your market. And I'm thinking about other agents here. Those agents aren't taking a day off. Trust me on that, right? They've got to. They've got no path forward but to take you on or to be competitive. So there's no waiting till January 1. The world doesn't stop turning so that you can just plug in on January 1. There are lions and lionesses.
I love that. So that leads to another great question. I love that, Steve. All of you know, probably all of you know who Warren Buffett is, the great investor. He says what he buys are companies that have a moat around them.
Yeah.
They can't be taken down. There's something they do that's so unique, so differentiated, so far ahead of everyone else that they can't be taken down. By the way, if you saw the streaming from the retreat, we heard that from our own CEO, Robert Refkin. He said, we now have 1,500 full-time engineers. Holy crap. That made me excited and scared at the same time. I can't believe we have that many people just creating stuff we need. And at the same time, I'll never be able to keep up with all the stuff these guys create. It was a little scary.
Yeah.
But he said, at this point, we're not catchable. There's no retail real estate firm out there that can catch us now. The money that's been spent, the engineers that have been hired. That's creating a moat. So there's the question for you guys. Steve's talking about the competition that's out there, that's always out there. What is something about you that's not competable? What is something that only you do, only you bring, only you have? And maybe we lean into that. This is me. No one can compete with me at being me. But what is that thing?
So with that, let me put out one thing I'd like to, unless you want to take questions from anyone right now, I'd like to put out the one thing I'd like to, or a belief that I have, and it's something I think that we really don't work on. We just show up in the way that we are. I believe and will always believe that people hire people they like and people they're in flow with. Trust comes after that. So it has to happen in that first meeting. I trust where you're starting to establish trust. But the secret sauce that I've seen in my 33 years are agents that have a natural ability. They have a health engendering quality to them where they're able to establish trust with strangers better than others. And they do this by creating a great first impression. Now, this is going to sound like it's about as old school as it gets. But what do I mean by that? Of course, how you appear, the way you dress. Like I certainly, unless I was going to an alumni at the University of Michigan for a listening appointment, I wouldn't probably dress like this.
You're in celebratory mode. We'll excuse it.
That's it. But anyhow, I think I'm a pretty intense personality, so we have to look at what we teach, what we learn the most, right? And so someone who's kind of a high D and an offsetting with an I have to be reminded that when I show up in a space, I've got to remind myself, look happy, right? Don't look so intense on it. Look, notify your face that you're feeling pretty good. The other thing is that number 2 tip. So number 1 tip is when you're trying to make a great first impression, people who appear happy, lighthearted attract people. They're more attractive than the alternative, right? This is simple stuff, but if you're like me, you got to be reminded of it. So it's not as easy as it may seem. Number 2 is you have to demonstrate an authentic interest in other people. Authentically, not this BS asking, stock questions. Tell me about your family, and then never drilling beyond these series of questions that are just about you getting information. And it feels like that, like you're taking someone's inventory, if you will. You have to show up with a genuine interest in other people authentically. That means you do less talking. And for a guy like me that can breathe through his ears, it's tough, but you've got to do it. And number 3 is you've got to demonstrate gratitude. You have to be great. You have to, in a way that's very authentic, show them how grateful you are for that opportunity to have a seat at the table, to have that conversation about their needs. And I think if you can do those 3 things, be happy, which is more than what the word means, right? It's about communicating body language, tonality. It's about a genuine interest and authenticity in people. And number 3, showing a way that people know every time you're around them that you value them, you appreciate them, and because they're in your world, they make your life better. If you can think about that, in every engagement you have with people you don't know, you will start to build trust with strangers. And that, my friends, on this call, is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself if you want to get to another level. Because people will always buy from people they're in flow with. So you can just show up today. You can listen to nothing I said. And I'm looking at Wayne or John on the account, you guys could show up and just be who you are. And for 25% of the world, that's enough. But you're going to be in the deficit category for the other 75. And so you have to show up with intention in this area. So again, Sean, sorry to be so elementary, but that's my first thing. And then I have one more, if you will, and then we'll go from there.
Go ahead.
But the second thing would be to just absolutely embrace lead generation. No one succeeds in this business without focusing on that activity. Period. That's all I can say. It's going to be more important than ever as the disintermediators try to use technology to steal your customers away. So if you can show up in a place where you can build trust because you are showing up with the right attitude and authenticity to yourself, that's about caring for people and their needs and what's important to them, and you are deliberately seeking them out without the help of tech, you will be so far ahead of the game in the next couple of years. Because if you just rely on technology to bring the kill to your feet, your life's going to get a whole lot harder. I'm just telling you, because there are a lot of forces amassing. Hell, we're trying to do it, Sean. Those 1,500 engineers are going to try to bring the kill to our agents' feet. So
right
there you go.
That's just business.
You think those 1,500 engineers are just trying to figure out how to make a better flyer for you?
You're mistaken. And one of my favorite things about you, Steve, now you've shared the secret. I never knew it. When Steve says, that's all I can say, 100% guarantee he's going to say something right after that. You breathe through your ears. I always wondered how the hell you did that.
I do.
I'm going to bring this full circle because the two big takeaways that you just said fit right back into the questions I want you guys to be asking yourself right now. We have 4 weeks. I'm not talking about your plan for next year. We're talking about a very specific time period. What are you going to do that you aren't doing right now? And Steve, you said here's the 2 places I would look. Am I being authentically me? Because that goes back to no one can compete with you. But we try so hard to be everything to everybody. Be you. Right. Authentically you. Go play with that for 4 weeks.
You don't
might
get
be-
into real estate, Sean, if you don't want to help people. They got to know
right.
you're there.
I'm going to share with you guys a quick story because we're not all the same. Like, I am not a warm and fuzzy. My natural, I'd rather be in front of 2,000 people giving a speech than at a cocktail party talking to 2 people. Not my nature. Just before I came out of doing retail, when they said, nah, I'm not allowed to, I was preparing a commercial saying, you know what? Not everybody wants the realtor who's a best friend. That's what every single agent's taught. Be everybody's friend. Be everything to everybody. I was getting ready to film a commercial where I would say, I don't know why my clients don't invite me over to their events afterward. And then it's me walking into a pool party and knocking someone in the pool and making something fall on the barbecue and light on fire. And they don't bring me to, I never get invited to my clients' baby showers. And there's me walking into a baby shower with a 6-pack of beer. Where do the gifts go? A couple of dumbass things. And then because humor makes people laugh, but then end it with, look, not everybody wants an agent who's their best friend. Not everybody wants an agent who's going to come to all their events. Some people just want an agent who gets the job done and gets them top dollar. If that's the kind of agent you want, then give me a call. And if you want a friend, buy a puppy. Now, you know what? Maybe 10% of the population would like that. But holy crap, 10% is still 100% more, 100 times more than I can do in business. You don't have to be everything to everybody. Find you, the natural you, and go be that. And then tie it to lead generation. What are we going to do over the next 4 weeks that you haven't been doing? That's the key. For the next 4 weeks, what are you willing to lean into and get uncomfortable with to set up your first quarter, which then sets up your entire year? This is not a difficult concept to understand, but it's execution. That's where it can be tricky. Right now, you're setting up your 2022. What are you willing to do? And I would love if you guys have comments or questions right now, because we're challenging your thought. This is not a ABC, go do this. We're trying to challenge you guys. Throw them out.
Right.
There's the energy.
I think it's important too. I'm sorry, did someone say something?
No, nobody did. That's what I'm making.
Okay, well, I hope someone does. But I'll say this, to drive home the point, the way you would show up to a presentation, Sean, with your natural disposition, your natural energy, you're on a higher frequency than I am. Your tonality, your pitch, your energy. My natural energy is a little bit more subdued. It's more cerebral in the sense that I'm kind of scanning the room all the time. I walk in a room with strangers, and I'm actually naturally quite nervous, to be honest. People don't believe that when I tell them that, but it's absolutely true. I walk into a room, if I could hear someone, I could be at a restaurant hearing someone talk about real estate, and I am naturally shy to go over to them and say, hey, I couldn't help it over here. I'd like to, I know a little something about this area, blah, blah, blah. Now, I have to do that if I want to succeed at the highest level. Now, how I approach that, so to your point, like when you show up with that energy, that's what we're talking about. That's who you are. And that is going to attract a lot of folks. You can say the same thing by saying, look, the most important thing, if I get anything from the conversation we're about to have this evening, Mr. Miller, about why it is you're trying to sell your home, there's one thing I want you to, that I want to make clear to you about my intention here. And that is to understand exactly what it is you're needing in the sale of your home, so that I can not only meet those expectations, because I believe conflict arises when expectations differ, but my goal here is to exceed the expectations you had before I sat down at this chair. So it's really important for us to just open up a line of communication where you're completely honest. And if you hear something you're not comfortable with, I'd like you to tell me. I'd like to ask more. I'd like to understand that differently. And I'd like your permission that if I hear something or an approach that that you're looking towards in terms of getting the job done here, that I have the same opportunity to be honest with you, even if it means I ruffle your feathers, or I dare I say, God forbid, even may hurt your feelings. Is that okay? See, that's how I would approach that. Like, that's the script, my tonality, my pitch, my cadence, because we're on screen here. I would actually probably be a little bit slower. Sean, like I'm just amped up a little bit because Michigan won Saturday. But I would probably my speech patterns would be a little bit slower, but that would be my approach, to do the same thing you would say in a way that would just get everyone's attention, because your presence, your style, this is what it means to be authentic. And if you're who you are, you have a shot at everybody. Even if you're not, even if someone doesn't, because I can tell you this, when I see someone like Sean talk, he reminds me a lot of Scott Crouch, a friend of mine in Arizona, who could go into a room, stand on a chair, and get people fired up. And when I first met him, I thought, this guy's full of shit. I've never been that happy my entire life. This is not real. This isn't right. And yet, after I realized that's who he was, it caused me to look at myself and say, God, I wish I had some of those qualities. So it actually attracted me to him, oddly enough. It actually attracted him to me. So this is what I'm talking about. But what's important here is you got to be you, not somebody else. You can't go in there trying to be something you're not. Be you. You're good enough. You got everything it takes. You just got to be you, and you just have to have a system. You have to have a process. You got to follow that process.
So I would like to suggest, first of all, that was an interesting story. I didn't know that when you met me, or the idea that it ends up becoming an attractor between people is really interesting. I got to think about that.
Yeah.
Because normally we just talk about we're like similars. So that's very interesting.
Opposites attract. I mean, you don't, right?
I think we should end this. I'd like to ask you one last challenging question. Back to the narrow now, back to the 4 weeks. What can we challenge? Did we cover it? Okay. Oh, you're muted, Steve.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I think we challenge. I think, I think that, this is an answer that has to come from within, right? So I give you an idea of something I think that I've seen works. Intention and lead gen, and a care and concern for how you're showing up. That first
right. Thing. We very purposely didn't give you guys, here's a list, pick one of these three.
Yeah.
Because that wouldn't really be it. You've got to look at your, go back to the caves. What caves do I keep walking by? Can I keep whistling through the graveyard going, oh, it's all good. I'm not going in there.
Amen. Yeah. Authenticity doesn't mean, here, go be this.
Right. Be authentic. And here's how you should do it.
Right.
Here's the challenge I want to give you guys that are on this call right now. Today, at some point, send an email to Steve or myself and put down this one thing you're going to lean into over the next 4 weeks.
There you go. Yeah,
this is what I'm committing. We're not going to follow up. This isn't an accountability and all that stuff. It's just you putting on paper and telling someone else, this is what I'm going to lean into for the next 4 weeks to set my first quarter up, which will set my 2022 up. That's my challenge to all of you.